Gosh, I think that I maybe have some unpopular views on this,
Right.
because sometimes it's right for a business to move.
Mm.
Like, I think of someone you interviewed, Raven Space Systems. That was a good move for them to go to Colorado Springs. There's a defense concentration there. That industry is concentrated there. And so that's a smart move. So I think we have to acknowledge that sometimes it's in the best interest of a company to leave, and we should support that. I think that we, in terms of ecosystem players, can do a better job of helping entrepreneurs find national resources that aren't necessarily going to take them out of Kansas City. So we're really working on trying to identify those resources that aren't in Kansas City that they can take advantage of remotely. I also think it's okay to leave for a time and come back. I mean, I know that that's a thing, hopping to different accelerator programs. And if that helps you grow your business, but at the end of the day, you built the most relationships here.
Who really wanted with me? I'm at the top, that's 1, not 2 or 3. This real life, baby, don't make believe. I just make it look easy like ABC. I'm only 24.
Welcome back to another episode of City Entrepreneur. I'm your host, GEWKC, and your favorite storyteller around the city. This season, we have had a lot of amazing entrepreneurs, amazing founders, amazing stories. So I hope you guys are enjoying this season, and we have more to come. So stay tuned. Now, let's get back to the show. On the City Entrepreneur Show, we dive into real stories of founders, funders, and builders shaping underdog cities, uncovering what it truly takes to launch, grow, and scale a business. Whether you are an entrepreneur, just someone who wants to learn about entrepreneurship or invest, we have founders who can give you different aspects of entrepreneurship. Now, like I always say on this show, there's no BS. We have real people, real stories that can be impact to what you're doing. Now, I want to give a quick shout out to KCSourceLink for sponsoring this episode. If you are an entrepreneur or you are someone who wants to learn about entrepreneurship, find resources, go to KCSourceLink.com to get the info. Now, back to the show. Kansas City loves to celebrate entrepreneurship. We cut the ribbons, throw the parties, and post headlines. But if you sit down with founders, you hear a different story. Capital is hard to access, resources feel scattered, and the same insiders too often benefit. The real question is, how do we build an ecosystem that works for all entrepreneurs, not just a select few? That's what we're going to be digging into today. My next guest has over 20 years of experience across corporate, nonprofit, and the startup world. She has led R&D at a Fortune 500 company, co-founded a nonprofit, helped relaunch GEWKC to support tech founders. At our core, she's a connector who makes sure entrepreneurs of every kind, from small business owners to high-growth founders, have a real shot at thriving here in Kansas City. Help me make welcome the Senior Director of KCSourceLink, Becca Castro. How you doing?
Good.
Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, I love the outfit. Very colorful.
Thank you. I will
Yeah.
admit that I looked at the set
Yeah.
and then looked in my closet and
It's like,
thought, what will look good
what will look good?
on this chair with this
So
background?
thank you for bringing some color into it, because I'm too bland. I'm always like either black or blue or black on black. So thank you for bringing a little bit of a refreshing color
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
I'm
how's
excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I think in the ecosystem, you are, I would say, one of the known names when it comes to Kansas City entrepreneurship. So I'm excited to learn about your story, because I feel like a lot of people don't even know your story. So I want to learn that today, and I want other people to learn that. So with that being said, for those who don't know who Becca Castro is, give us a little bit of a background. Like, where did you start out from? Are you from Kansas City? And how did you get to where you are today?
Sure. It's a bit of a windy road. I'm not from Kansas City, so grew up in the Southwest, El Paso, Texas.
Okay.
And in terms of my career journey, it's, like I said, a little bit of a windy path. My parents were always like, we do not know what you do. We do not know where you're headed. And so I like to talk about it as 3 different careers. That first one, right out of college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I was really focused on my own personal learning to try and figure out what that was. So I finished my bachelor's, went into my master's. A couple years later, did my doctorate, did 2 graduate certificates. So like that, those 20s were really focused on consuming information and really trying to figure out what I wanted to do. While I was doing that, I was working full time. So I taught 4th and 5th grade. I worked with teachers and administrators in a couple districts in Texas and New Mexico. started my own nonprofit, so focused on leadership development for young adults. I taught higher ed. And so all kind of surrounded around education. Even though I said I would never follow in my family's footsteps and be a teacher, I found myself, doing education and loved it.
Right.
And so that was really for me about growing individuals. And then my second career,
So before we get to that,
okay,
let's dive a little bit more. So what did you study in college? What were your degrees in progressively?
yeah.
What did you do in college?
So bachelor's, this is kind of funny. I transferred 3 times.
Okay.
And changed my major like 5 times. So for those young people out there who don't know what they want to do, it's okay. Like that's what life's about, right? Like just trying to figure out where your place is. And so graduated with a degree in public relations. And
tell me, let's dig deeper into the 5 majors. Why did you change so many majors? Let's talk about that, because I think that's important, because there are students who don't know what they want to do in college, and they feel defeated because they see their friends who are much more straight path.
Who know exactly what they want to do
exactly.
at 5.
And then, you're a success story. Tell me like that. Like, walk us through that.
I think part of it is really reflective of my personality as a whole. Like, I need different experiences. I need variety. I need to be challenged. So I think that was part of it in terms of changing. But I wanted to be a doctor from like a young age. I was really sick. Like when I was 5, I had pneumonia a couple times. So I was in the hospital a lot, and I just saw the doctors and nurses, and I'm like, I want to do that. I want to help people.
Right.
And so that was what I started out with. And so was taking a ton of biology and like physiology, not doing well at it, I will say. So then I got into, to be honest, I can't even remember. I think it was like a general studies, some like liberal arts general major. And then I finally sat down with a career counselor at the university. So I had transferred to University of Houston, and she's like, do you want to graduate? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you are like majoring in 3 different things right now, and you need to pick one because you need to finish.
Wow.
I was like, okay, well, let's look at that. So she said the quickest path to graduation is communications, PR and communications. And so started taking those classes my senior, like really focusing on those my senior year. And I'm like, okay, I really like this. And the aspect I really liked was I had an assignment where we had to create an organizational chart and a job description for the president. And I got a perfect, like an A+.
Ooh,
and I was like, okay. So that led me to my master's, which is really organizational development. How do we structure organizations?
Right.
How do we place people in a way where they can perform and, meet the mission of the organization?
Right.
How do we keep people engaged and happy and retained? So kind of HR, but really more on the people side.
Right.
And so that was my master's. And there was also a technology aspect. So instructional technology. How do we help people learn through technology? And I really loved my master's. That was when I really kind of started to find where I like to be. And then for my doctorate, I really wanted to teach higher ed. So that's why I completed my doctorate. In the process, realized I didn't really like doing that.
Okay.
Maybe when I retire, maybe as an adjunct, but not for my full time.
Right.
And so that work was really focused on adult learning. And that's when I really got into like, when adults are faced with a challenge, some sort of like a divorce, a death, a layoff, what do they learn about themselves? What do they do? Because they typically start to question their worldview and think about, who am I now that I've been, put in this challenging position? And so they often do grow personally. And so I feel like that's one of the reasons I love working with entrepreneurs, because they are typically doing this because it's a really strong passion, or they found themselves in a situation where they need to create their own thing.
Right.
And it's usually something that's close to their heart, right?
Right.
And so they follow that, what we call in academia, that transformational learning process. And so I get to see that with entrepreneurs that I work with every day. And so
let me ask you this, as I would say an expert in college, because you had 5 different
yes.
An expert in college, 5 different majors and 3 universities. I think you're an expert. You should get some kind of stamp for experience in collegeness.
A passport
for
different universities.
So tell me this, what worked for you and what didn't work for you?
I am a very interdisciplinary thinker. And so I think what didn't work for me, I made it work, but what traditionally didn't work for me was, you are in a program and you need to pick a program of study, and those classes are kind of outlined for you. You do this one and then this one and then this one. And I don't think that way. Like, so for my doctorate, I was in the College of Education. And so they wanted me to take all of these K-12 classes. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to apply this to K-12. I want to work with adults. So they allowed me to build my own program. So I took a lot of political science courses. I took a lot of women and gender studies courses. I took a lot of history courses and kind of built my own program because I was really just interested in how adults pursue their goals and passions, and like what's required in terms of the learning to help them thrive, right? And this is really outside of education, like in the classroom. It's more of the learning that occurs in the world, in the workplace. And so
so you took an entrepreneurial approach to education, so to say.
I guess so.
Because it sounds more fun that way than being put in this box of like, this is what you have to do.
Yeah.
Because it kind of becomes redundant in that way. So like
for sure.
When you went high ed, why did you say, I can't do this? Maybe later on. What worked? What didn't work?
I was surprised. So I was teaching undergrads.
Okay.
These were pre-service teachers. So they were going to go on to teach. They were juniors and seniors. And I mean, this sounds bad. I typically have high expectations of people.
Right.
So I'm like, they're not very serious about their studies. Like, they're turning in papers that look like text messages. And I just thought, and I mean, they're young, right? Like, I shouldn't fault them for wanting to have fun and that sort of thing. But I was just like, I'm looking for something more serious, like where adults are in maybe a more serious phase of their life.
Right.
Now, I would love to go back and teach at the master's level or at the doctoral level, because again, I think that's when you've really found something you really want to study and like become an expert on. And so different classroom experience, right?
So let me tell you a story that I've not shared in public before, which is going to be funny, interesting. So when I got to the US in 2016, I don't know what an essay is. I didn't even have to write an essay. So I took I think it was like an English, like a discourse class. I think it was a discourse. And they required me to write an essay about like some topic. I didn't know what citing means or how you cite sources. That's not the thing I know about, right? So I literally copied and pasted things from the internet into my paper. Literally a bunch of my paper were copied and pasted with no citation, right? The professor, which I think he should have given me grace when I was an international student, but he didn't give me no grace. So he reported me to the dean's office. So like
just straight away?
Just straight away to the dean's office.
I definitely had this situation. It was not international students. They should have known better. But I did have a conversation like, here's the deal.
Right.
We're looking for your thought. It's informed, right, by all of these resources, but I want to know what you think of those resources. And I mean, we did teach a lot about how to cite, because I'll be honest, even I'm trying to think I think it could have been my master's level even. I like tried to get away. We had to do all these reflection papers, and I tried to get away with doing one without citations. Like, I didn't plagiarize. Like, it was all my own thoughts, but I didn't cite the sources that inform my thinking. And I got into a little bit of trouble.
Yeah.
But
no,
so yeah, I would have totally sat down and talked to you.
I mean, that was like my first ever, like literally my first essay in the US.
Yes.
My first, it was not like second.
So
third.
did you get like, what were
So
the
I got a penalty of like, if I got 2, I would have been like expelled.
Oh my God.
So like I got my first, like literally my first semester in the US.
Oh.
My first essay in like English I was penalized for that. But I ended up in the class with an A, right? But like I never got a B in any essay writing class. Like I got I
get the message.
I get it. I understand what this means. So every paper I wrote, I was so careful because I'm like, I only have one shot at this.
Right.
Like, but it's like,
that's scary.
Like it was scary. But I mean, just to share the story of like, we're talking about writing papers. Like I took it seriously, but again, it's like there was no steps turned into.
Right. If you don't know.
Exactly. I mean, I was also in engineering. I don't know what I was doing in an English class. I was in engineering. Engineering, you don't write a lot. Like you're supposed to like do doing the math stuff. Anyways, that's my interesting college story. So then fast forward, right? So you have, because you talked about your family said they don't know what you do. What is your family so your family's from Houston. What is that dynamic? What is that? They don't know what you do in terms of like entrepreneurship and all that. Walk me through that.
So they're from El Paso, Texas.
Okay.
So opposite side of Texas.
Okay.
I just ended up in Houston following a boy. But so they're from El Paso, Texas, both born and raised there. And I when I taught, they got that. Teaching's easy, right? They're like, okay. But then as my career progressed, they just kind of were like, Becca's doing something. I don't know, talk to her about that. Very supportive family, long line of educators. My dad was in higher ed. My mom taught K-12 for her whole career. She also did public relations for the school district, but so yeah, really a great upbringing. The interesting thing is that they moved to, my dad got a job at UCM, University of Central Missouri, back in 96. So when I was in college, they moved here, well, to Warrensburg, but to the Midwest. And I thought they were crazy. Like, why are you moving to the Midwest? I just did not understand it. I was starting my own adult life. So it was like, you know, I'll come visit for Christmas and stuff, but didn't understand the allure of the Midwest. And so I was in Houston trying to finish my bachelor's. That's when I had the conversation about, like, you got to pick something.
Right.
And I was working 3 jobs and really struggling there. Houston's just big city. And so my dad kept saying, like, you can come finish school here for free, because it was one of the benefits of him working there. So moved to Warrensburg for 1 year, and I went there a semester. The other semester, so my last semester of my bachelor's, I studied abroad.
Okay.
And there I met my now husband.
Where did you start abroad at?
In the Netherlands. Yes,
What was that?
it was an awesome program because it was a consortium of professors and students from around the world.
Okay.
So every 6 weeks we had professors from different countries. So I had a Hungarian professor, a Mexican professor, a professor from Sweden, like, so such variety. And then the student makeup was that way too. So we had a large contingency from Mexico.
Right.
I joke that I spoke more Spanish in the Netherlands than I do like in the Midwest.
Right.
Wow. But so spent that little bit of time here in the Midwest, and then came home from the Netherlands, graduated, moved to Albuquerque to do my master's. And so thought I would probably never be back here. And then 12 years later, my husband, who I met in the Netherlands, was like, I'm in KC. Think we should date. So I ended up back here. My family's here now. I'm here.
Wow.
So it's just a kind of a coincidence that my parents were here and I ended up here.
Wow. Not to bring back what you said, 1996, you were in college, but let's keep going. I
know, I'm old.
Yes. Wow. Let's just leave it.
Yeah, I know. I love, that's another reason why I love working with entrepreneurs. A lot of them are young. It helps keep me young.
Yes.
I am young at heart. But yeah, I think people are sometimes surprised.
So coming back from, what was the biggest, like, when you were in the Netherlands, like, what was the biggest, I would say, culture shock? I always ask this, you know, as an international, I always want to hear what people's culture shock was in the Netherlands. Was there a big culture shock for you going there, or was there a big culture shock for you coming back to the U.S.?
I have to say, I mean, I love my time there. It was such an adventure. The program was built in a way that we could travel really easily, and so had an amazing time, learned so much about myself. I would say the culture shock was coming back. I was struck by, I mean, this sounds bad. I was struck by the obesity. Like, we were at the airport, and just, there was a large group of people walking across we were in a shuttle. And I just remember thinking, like, whoa, okay, Americans are larger than the European stuff.
You know what's funny? You are the second person on this show that told me that.
Really?
You're the second person.
Okay, well, that makes me feel better.
You're the second person. And literally, my other guest, she was saying she was in France. And that was the first thing she realized, that everyone here is pretty much skinny, which I think I need to do the whole episode about that, but that's a whole other conversation for the day. But that was interesting to hear that from her. And then you are confirming that too, which is like, okay. And also the other thing is, like, the streets in Europe are like way smaller than the streets here in the US. The cars are way smaller. Because a truck in the US, you can't fit in a street in London because there's not enough space for that. That's why everything's bigger in Texas. But okay, so talk to me about finding a nonprofit, working for a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah, so that was really kind of my second career.
Okay.
I was poor and needed money, and I was recruited by a corporation that is in the defense industry.
Great.
And so they were recruiting for my master's program. And so it was really attractive at the beginning because it was like, come work for us, work when you want, we'll pay you really well. There's no real commitment. Like it wasn't a full-time gig.
Okay.
And so it was perfect. I could do the stuff I was passionate about, but get paid well. And before long, they're like, can you come on full time? And so we call it in my family the golden handcuffs because they paid really well. It wasn't necessarily 100% aligned with like what I'm passionate about, but I learned a ton. And the person who hired me, she was my longtime mentor, and she was from Serbia. She was an artist, a painter by trade, and then found herself in this defense industry, tech heavy, innovative space. And so she built a team that was so unusual for that corporation. A lot of former military work in that corporation. So she built this team of creatives. And the cool thing about that was she intentionally built a culture for innovation. So made it safe to fail. She purposely did not give you a lot of parameters or a lot of direction. She wanted to see what you would create. She brought together kind of those creative thinkers. And so all of it came together to be such a cool environment to build new things. And so that's where I really got into innovation. Not only innovation from the tech perspective, we definitely were building products, but innovation just from like, how can we take what's working somewhere else and apply it in a new context to solve some kind of problem? And so I learned so much about project management there. I got to lead teams of people who were way smarter than I was. I mean, we were working on an AI product like before we are where we are now with AI. And so it was a race to market and high stress, but really fun to be around those people. And so I had moved to Kansas City by this time. So 2012, I moved to Kansas City and started having kids. And so it just got to a point where I can't travel every week. I need to be home. And also like, I'm hearing about how cool this place is called Kansas City. And I'm not really a part of it because I'm traveling every week. And so I made the decision to take a year off and leave the high paying salary and just see like what's next. And so spent that year spending time with my babies, but then also just exploring what's going on in Kansas City and how can I contribute. And so that really.
So we get to that part. So I want to ask this: was that an aha moment when you were working for this Fortune 500 company that made you, with that team you were in, that made you think, this is what's working and I want to do more of this? Or like, what did that do personally to you as a person, being put in that environment from, being your different experience, like a creative team? What did I do for you? Like, what did I do to you? Be like, okay, this might be a thing I want to do, or this is an aha moment for you?
Well, for sure solidified the fact that I'm a builder and I do have like an innovative vision, especially coming from K-12 public education, where it's not easy to innovate. There's a lot of constraints on teachers. And so they don't always have control over doing what they think is the best thing for their students or trying new things. And so going from that environment where there was a lot of apathy, I mean, understandably so, people were kind of resigned in a lot of ways. And those that were innovative and trying new things burnt out and left after 3 years. And I did the same thing. I left after 3 years. And so then coming into a place that has more finance, I mean, they can put money towards innovating, and then having that mentor who really believed in me and then also created that environment. Sure. I mean, I knew then that I was never going to go back to an environment like public education. And I hate to say that because it needs innovators, but it just wasn't going to be the place for me. And then just kind of married that like technology and being around people who are thinking up the next new thing with community. And that's like where I wanted to find a space in Kansas City. Where can I bring together that like.
Okay. No, because I think with your leadership style, especially Launch KC and SourceLink, I can see why. I can see why that is the way you lead, because it's more of a creative, innovative,
for sure, I try,
team that you put together, as opposed to this is straight. And also, again, I think you are an entrepreneur in your own self in terms of like the way you lead, right? I think you're an expert in universities, but also you're an expert in building teams because you are so good at it.
Well, thank you. I found myself oftentimes accidentally in positions where I had to build teams. And so I do think that I have an eye for bringing people together who would work well together. And I will say I learned along the way, kind of the hard way, that like not everybody wants to be in an innovative culture.
Right.
Some people, like their contribution is to be told like what they need to do and they get it done. And that there's the need for those people too. But people who thrive best under my leadership are those that want to take some creative license, that want to try things out, that are okay with failure. And so I had to learn how to communicate that to the people I lead so that they didn't find themselves like, hey, you're not giving me enough direction, or I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not comfortable with ambiguity. So I definitely learned along the way how to communicate the kind of leader I am and the people that will thrive best.
So tell me this, in those learning times, what are some things you tried that failed that you learned from or didn't work out? What are some trial and errors you had to do? What are the worst times you had to go through that taught you something, could have taken you out? You'd be like, okay, this worked.
I faced a lot of challenges in corporate America. I was often the youngest, the only brown, the only woman in rooms. And so I was not treated very well a lot of times. And so how do you take that and make something of it? Because I had the safety of the team that my boss had built. But like when I go out into other parts of the corporation or go out to our clients, you know, it was a struggle. And I think that for me, that just taught me to really have confidence in myself. Because I think when you're young, you kind of think anything I'm thinking about, everybody's thought about that, right? Like you don't really, or I didn't really think of my ideas as unique per se. So I would oftentimes feel like, why isn't anyone saying this? Or why aren't we doing this? And so through that, I just learned that I do have unique ideas. I do have something to contribute, and it's okay to say it. And a lot of the people in the room not understand what you're talking about.
And how did you come to that? And like, how did you come to that? Like, because that doesn't happen in a day. Like, how many times do you have to take SHIT from people to be like, okay, I'm not taking this anymore. This is what I'm. How do you build that confidence in yourself, or this is who I am and this is how I'm going to represent?
I mean, it's a process, because I'll say there were so many times where I'd be sitting in a corporate boardroom and we're talking about something and I put forth my idea and it's like as if I'm on mute. Like people don't even say anything. And then 5 minutes later, I had a male supervisor. 5 minutes later, he says the same thing and everybody's like, that is the best idea. Let's do that. I mean, literally. And so it was a lot of just patience. I think that I am pretty patient and try to understand human behavior. And so this is a thing like that we face. I think it's gotten a lot better for women and for minorities, but it is a thing we face. And so how do I play the game from within so that I can have an impact? And so it took a lot of time. And there were a lot of, especially in corporate America, I was so frustrated and was looking for an off-ramp. But I'm glad I stuck with it. I was there for like 12 years. And so I do feel like the gift is I came out of that. It's pretty hard to like frazzle me now. And to be in a space, the ecosystem I find pretty supportive, and it's the place where I feel like I'm finally among my people. And so when I have an idea, I'm sitting in rooms now where people are like, okay, cool, let's think about that. Like, how do I understand what you're doing? Or I thought about that too. And versus it falling on deaf ears and like people looking at me like I'm crazy. So I think it's a combination of, you know, building that confidence over time and then finding the rooms where people understand you, you know, like where you have like-minded individuals.
Where you have value, because I feel like ideas that you bring forth now are a stand as opposed to that's not going to work
For
out. And I think, does that come with the years of experience or the fit, or does it like fit in the
I don't know. I've been thinking about this. I haven't really talked about this out loud, so we'll see how this goes. But I sometimes feel like I think a lot about adult development because of my background and then just watching people as they go through their journey. And I think that sometimes people are at their prime in their late 20s, maybe early 30s. They have a ton of energy. They are trying to prove themselves. This is talking about in the work world.
Right.
And they have fresh ideas. They're not jaded. They're not, bogged down with the realities of like funding and all these things that when you're in a leadership position,
Right.
you have to really think about. And so I think experience is so important, but I also think it's important for people in leadership positions to really provide that, come to the table to those young people, because I think that's where a lot of our fresh ideas come from. So I guess I'm saying that you gain credibility as you have experience, but for people who have that credibility, bring others to the table, because I think their ideas may be more fresh than,
Right.
more seasoned leaders.
No, I think you said it. Yeah, you said it perfectly, because I think, as a young person, you have energy, you don't have experience essentially, because there's nothing backing you. But also I think another question I would want to ask, because I know the way hearing your story makes me realize that you could have been an entrepreneur, but like, why did you become an entrepreneur in systems as opposed to starting a business?
I know it's funny because I'm definitely a builder. Like I've built people, I've built teams, I've, built systems, process. I think I've always been an entrepreneur, and I wouldn't close the door on me being an entrepreneur. Like I do really love collaboration. And so if I were to do something, it would have to be something where I do have that piece.
Yeah.
Even if it's just fellow entrepreneurs
Right.
that are up to their own things, but we're,
Yeah.
So,
and I mean,
I wouldn't close the door.
Right, because I feel like and I'm just saying this from someone who's been watching your kind of journey in the past, I would say past 4 or 5 years. It's like, when I think of Lunch KC, you made Lunch KC become a thing, right? How you did that might give me instances of like how you did that, I don't know, but it's like kind of your leadership skill. Like, you made a thing, now you're in KCSourceLink. We're hearing more about what KCSourceLink is doing for the next 4 or 5 years. Like, there are new things happening that are exciting for our entrepreneurs that I think in the past 5 years has not been the same. I think there's a new strategy of inclusivity and collaboration across the board. Small business entrepreneurs, because those are the different elements. But how do you bring them in one space, right? You are doing that. But I want to ask you this, though, from a Midwest perspective, because I know being in the ecosystem, KC is known, I would say, one of the original entrepreneurship cities. Like, it's known as historical for entrepreneurship, for creativity, right? But I feel there's something holding us back. Why aren't we becoming the place to be? Why aren't we having a lot of investors here? Why aren't we having a much more thriving ecosystem than other places that actually emulate from us? Because different cities take ideas from KC and do that in their own, and it works. What's holding us back from what you see?
I think that things are cyclical. I think that you're right. We, just this summer at Global Entrepreneurship Congress, global conference, multiple entities from Kansas City were recognized on the global stage. So we have things that are really working here. We have the Kauffman Foundation that is just such a gift in our backyard. What Maria Myers has created is amazing. All these early ecosystem builders, what they created, Google Fiber coming here. So that was like really the beginning of that height of the ecosystem. And ecosystem building as a practice is new. It's like a new career pathway.
That's true. Yes.
And so I think that we have such a strong foundation here, but I do think that things are cyclical. And one thing that I've been thinking a lot about is just this transition of leadership. We're in the middle of a generational shift, right? Those leaders that are retiring, and I'm Gen X, and there's some articles and stuff nationally about, how boomers maybe not have prepared the Gen X bench as well as they should. They're also staying in the workforce longer. And so I do think that we have to focus on that transfer of leadership, that transfer of power,
Right.
because that former generation was really engaged in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And for us to thrive, it takes more than just ESOs. It takes more than entrepreneurs. It really takes the civic engagement. It takes the chambers, the EDCs. It takes the lenders, the universities, all really working together and buying in on this. And so from a, what's the word? Like optimistic perspective, I think that part of it right now is things go in cycles. And right now we're having that shift in power. And so it's about engaging the new leaders in understanding the value that they provide, the value that entrepreneurship provides to our economy.
Right.
And so I have hope.
Yes.
We are actively working
Yeah.
on bringing those leaders to the table,
Right.
and really identifying measurable ways to move the ecosystem forward. And so I hear you, but I feel like we are starting that uphill climb again. And so,
and I like what you said in the sense that the young people are the ones for like the next generation. Or how do you put them, give opportunity to speak out, right? Because I feel like you are looking at yourself 10 years ago, 50 years ago in that corporation that no one was hearing your voice and saying,
absolutely,
if I was in the same position or in a leadership position, why don't I give people the opportunity to speak out? And so we can find, because I think that's what was like. And how do you make sure there's a right way to pass the baton, so to say?
Absolutely. And develop that bench. I mean, I think it's something that from the very beginning, if you find yourself in a leadership position, you should be thinking about who will replace me. And I need to be bringing them along with me, because whether you leave the industry or retire or whatever the case may be, like you have to have those leaders. And I think it's that buy-in to why the entrepreneurial ecosystem is important for our economic stability overall as a region.
Yeah. So let's shift to KCSourceLink, right? Before you got into the organization, I think 2 questions. What is something that was working well that you had to build on to make it more effective? And also, what's something new that you are doing that is going to help that in a pass the baton or help KC become that hub for the next generation? What are the 2 sides?
Yeah, that's a great question. So working at the Economic Development Corporation of Kansas City on Launch KC, I was able to interact quite a bit with KCSourceLink. And I just loved the way that they engaged the ecosystem and kind of served as that convener and facilitator of, the different ESOs moving to action. And so I had a very positive view of what they were doing. And so coming into this role, I really wanted to maintain and grow on that. And we have this Forging the Future initiative, which maybe we'll touch on later, because I'd like to kind of share what that is. But that is kind of another way that we're keeping the ecosystem engaged and helping to facilitate that collaboration and that action. And also that measurement of our ecosystem, because it's easy to say like it's not working, but do we, what does the data say? And so anyway, that was something that they were doing that I wanted to continue and grow on. And then something new, I don't know if it's new, but I would say something that's really working well, because they have done this in the past. So it's not like I can take credit for the idea, but really bringing back a community-based network navigator program. And so we got a grant from Missouri Technology Corporation to try this out. And the grant was to hire 3 community navigators who would be out and about, meeting with entrepreneurs, attending events. And so we've been able to grow that just in 6 months to 6 navigators, 3 of which are Spanish speakers. They're bilingual, but they can meet entrepreneurs and speak in Spanish.
Why is that important though? Why was that needed?
We were hearing from different partners that there were a lot of entrepreneurs that weren't as comfortable speaking English or Spanish in terms of like really getting in and discussing the details of their business and the help they need. And so, and like Gabe at the Toolbox, I mean, he has so many clients. And so just to kind of extend his value, providing navigators that can help with his caseload was the strategic move. And we have been, well, first of all, I was blown away by the applicants. So this is a 20-hour-a-week job, contract, doesn't pay a lot. And so I thought I'm going to get probably young people who are interested in entrepreneurship. Did not think I was going to get the caliber of applicants that we got. I mean, each of the 6, they are entrepreneurs operating active businesses. They have a passion for entrepreneurship and supporting the ecosystem. They work their tails off. I mean, we constantly have a text thread going, and what we're talking about in that text thread is, I met with so-and-so, he's starting this business. I thought of all these things that could help. What do you all think? And so it's really a collaborative effort to provide the best resources to the entrepreneurs. And I think the other thing that we're trying to do more is open our network. Because there are the 230 plus ESOs that support entrepreneurs, but there's also the people I know well. And I know if I connect you to so-and-so, they're going to connect you to customers. They're going to connect. And so it's about opening up that personal network too. I think that has worked really well.
So a question of two generations, because I know in the ecosystem, which is kind of a new term that people have learned about, there is a group that says, I've been in the ecosystem for 20 years. I'm swimming back because I don't want to be in it because it's the same people over and over again. And then there's another group that says, I'm new. I don't know how to get involved because, again, it's the same people over and over again. How do you change and bring more people in, but also engage older people who have been in the past but have left? What do you think, or what do you want to say to them of like if they're scared? Like, how do you bring that together? Because
that's a challenge I think about all the time. So yes, that's what we think about doing all the time. And so I would just say that I love it when people reach out to me on LinkedIn, like just cold reach out. I had someone last night. I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know if you can help me out. Like, or one that I really love and got more right after COVID was I've relocated to Kansas City. My parents live here. We're having kids. We came back. We were in New York. We were in San Francisco. I just want to contribute. I can mentor, I can advise, I can, and so those calls, I jump on those and just introduce them to people in the network. And I will say that's one of the beauties of our ecosystem. I know that if I talk to someone and I connect them with Kevin, I connect them with, anybody on my team. Right. I connect them with Jill Hathaway, all these people who are going to also do the connections. Right. So I think that's the easiest way to get engaged if you're new. And I think like Jessica Powell's Back to KC, and that is an amazing, or new to KC, Back to KC, both of them do an amazing job of really kind of formalizing that process of getting people engaged. I think for people who have aren't engaged anymore, again, like we're on that cycle up again. So what can you contribute? And I think there's some new and exciting ways that might feel exciting to them if they felt like things were getting stagnant. So like reach out. We are here and we love to get those calls.
Yeah. I think that has been, for me, I was always reaching out. Like if you don't reach out, there's nowhere to connect to them. Right. Because I think you're doing the right thing. It's just like that connectivity piece of like, if you want to be able to help and involve, like what is and I'm glad you'll have an open door policy, which is like, if you have something, come through, let's work on it, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to ask this. So what is because you're talking about Forging the Future. What is that? What are you guys working on that?
Yeah. So Forging the Future, this was, again, with support from Missouri Technology Corporation. Okay. They've been good to us. And so what we did in 2024 was brought together the ecosystem, not just ESOs, but lenders, entrepreneurs, educators, and really just focused on two questions. What's working and where do we need to be? Where are our gaps? And so out of that whole process came two things. One, a vision for Kansas City in terms of our ecosystem. And really, I don't know it word for word, but it's around being an inclusive place where anyone can start a business and prosper. And the other thing that came out of the process was 7 areas where we really need to move the needle forward in order to remain a good place for people to start a business. And so these 7 areas are not surprising. It's capital, it's talent, it's removing barriers. Like, so if you're trying to get permits for a food truck and we live in a bi-state region and you need to drive around the metro, the number of permits and the amount of money you need to pay. So removing some of those barriers. Storytelling is a big one where I think you play a very important role. And it's not only storytelling amongst the people in the ecosystem, it's telling the story nationally, because when we have an entrepreneur that's going to the coast to get funding, which is the reality, they need to have the reputation of Kansas City be better than it is right now so that they have some credibility built in there. So anyway, those 7 areas, we just kicked off in August, the second phase of the work. The second phase is about action. Okay. So we know these 7 areas. We know what we need to do. How do we come together as an ecosystem? KCSourceLink can't do it. It has to be everybody. To identify specific actions, measure progress, and report out impact. And so we view it as a 3 to 5 year initiative, and KCSourceLink will serve as the project manager. We will serve as the facilitator, the convener, and then we will report out on impact. And we just need everyone to engage.
Okay. So like if you would say, because you said KCSourceLink can do it all. If you had a magic wand, which is probably impossible, but like what has been like the hardest things in this position, trying to pull things or get things in that could help accelerate this process much faster than you think if only this that can come into the conversation to make it happen, what would you think?
Okay, so a couple things. One would be, I mean, a big challenge for us in terms of like kind of monitoring the health of the ecosystem is the level of collaboration. So are ESOs collaborating with each other? Do they trust each other enough to send their clients to, refer each other their clients? So I think that would be one thing, is a higher level of collaboration and openness and trust, right? And then I think another one would be engagement. So engagement, I'm really talking about the corporations, the lenders, and also the civic entities. Like KCADC came to our recent kickoff for Forging the Future, and just having someone there who was understanding what we're trying to do and then thinking about what they're already doing, like right there's synergy. And so just engaging with those that are kind of considered a little bit outside the ecosystem. They're still necessary, but they're maybe not the ones at all the events.
Right.
I think another thing would be figuring out the bi-state challenges. I mean, if we could figure out, because for ESOs, for entrepreneurs, funding, policy, they have to make a decision.
That's true.
Am I going to be Missouri? Am I going to be Kansas? And not just them being here in our region benefits both sides of the state line. So if I could wave a magic wand, we would be able to create some sort of neutral zone and just have funding and policy and support for that region
As
versus
opposed to having to choose Missouri or Kansas. And I think what you said is really important, because you can only have so many like great ideas on your KCSourceLinks that you're working on things. But if all these elements, the ecosystem people are not working, the ESOs are not working together, like the ADCs are not coming together, like how do you actually take action in these different things, right? In that same perspective, so we know that World Cup is coming next year, big deal for Kansas City. How do you think, or first, what role does KCSourceLink play in that to make sure that small business entrepreneurs are not siloed or not are represented? And also, what do you think the city should be doing to be able to make sure that everyone is shown in the World Cup, essentially?
I think it's a really tough thing because we've never done this before.
Right.
We've never hosted anything on this of this magnitude. And so I think that there's been a lot of like either falling into one camp where like, this isn't for me, I'm just not going to worry about it. And if our draft didn't go well, I'm not going to make any changes. And then the other camp where there's really high expectations of being able to engage like with FIFA. So I think that that's part of it, is really setting clear expectations. And I think KC 2026 and all the organizations, the chambers that are involved are really trying to do a good job of that. For KCSourceLink, again, we're a convener, we are a connector, we are an information disseminator. And so some of the specific ways we're supporting is on our community calendar. You can go there and you can choose to sort the events by KC game plan. And so those are any events that are going to support businesses in preparing to leverage the event in July.
Okay.
And so that's one tangible way. If anybody is trying to figure out how to get plugged in, they can call us and we'll connect them.
Okay.
I'm excited about it. I think it's really difficult to know the true opportunity for businesses because, like I said, we haven't done this before. But I really do think that it sets us up to host other large-scale events. And so I think if we all just kind of do what we do well and do our best, then that's the best we can do.
What do you think is the potential for the KC entrepreneurship ecosystem in the next 5? What would you like to see on a newsletter? What would you like to see happen in this ecosystem to make it grow and become what it should be? Like, how do we realize what's the potential, and how do we realize the potential that we have as Kansas City entrepreneurs, so to say? What would you say?
I mean, I think that we have a lot going for us just where we are geographically located, and we also have a variety of industry here. So that really opens some doors for different types of entrepreneur activity. I think we have some really strong infrastructure in place. I think we have a lot of committed people that are really supportive of entrepreneurs.
Right.
I think we need to really better engage like the corporations, better engage like kind of that civic, I've done quite a few civic leadership programs and activities. And I think that a lot of people don't understand the potential and the activity that's happening within the ecosystem. So I just think we need to do a better job of engaging the city, engaging the region. And I think where we could be is in a measurable way, be able to say that Kansas City stands out among its peer cities as a place to start a business and have those success stories and that data to back it up. We're working on a regional dashboard. And so it would be a place where people could come and see how we are doing, because I believe that like we can all sit around and say like it's going well or it's not going well, but like how do we know? And so
if you were to speak on the corporation side, what role do you think, or what role are they playing, and what role would you want them to be playing more in this ecosystem to help entrepreneurs grow?
I mean, I think that there's such an opportunity there. I think, like I said, that generational shift of power is, has kind of corporations' activity and engagement has declined, but there's an opportunity to bring that back up. And I think that we sometimes don't tell the story of how all the different ways that they can engage. And so there's really like 5 ways. I mean, procurement, which, they can be customers. They can be first customers for small businesses and startups. They can be investors. There's a couple corporations that have investment vehicles. And so really looking at the startup ecosystem as the problem solvers, solving their pain points 5-10 years. They can be sponsors, so sponsoring ecosystem activity and really just engaging in that way and showing that support. They can be mentors and really share their talent, share their expertise, also share their space, share their network. Like, are you willing to meet with an entrepreneur and open your network to them? Because that is huge. And then I think finally just engaging on work like Forging the Future, being at the tables to sit and listen to what's needed and think about what they're already doing and how they could just frame it in a way that it works for entrepreneurs. And so I think we can, kind of put the onus on the corporations, but I do think it's up to ecosystem builders and entrepreneurs to say, hey, here are very tangible ways that you can engage. And here are the benefits.
Do you think that's the issue, that there's not been a well-built out system for them to do that effectively, and that's why they're lacking behind? Or what do you think?
I do, because, if you think about anybody who's working on something, they're focused on that thing. So same with corporations, like they have a lot of things going on. They are, talent has been a huge issue for them. And so they have their immediate pain points or their immediate initiatives or things that they're working towards. And so they're not sitting around thinking, how can I support the entrepreneurial ecosystem? So let's make it easy. Let's just really provide concrete pathways and connections and examples. And so that's a big piece of Forging the Future. And so if anyone's interested in engaging on that particular imperative, engaging the corporate community, like, let's do it.
Okay, sweet. As we're coming to the end of the show, I'm asking a question on the city side, right? Because you talked about what would be great is to have a bi-state collaboration where you don't have to choose from Missouri and Kansas. If you can do it all together, it doesn't matter what state you are in, right? Is this another thing that you've been hearing from entrepreneurs that needs to happen, maybe on a city level, or something that needs to change to make it easier for founders, to make it easier for investors, to make it easier for small businesses? What have you been hearing from entrepreneurs or your research that needs to happen for growth to be essentially, for that to be growth?
Well, we serve both sides of the state line, and I have seen Kansas do some pretty great things recently. And so for Missouri, I think we need to pass the angel tax credit.
Okay.
It makes sense. We also, on the Missouri side, they just created, or about a year ago, created a role. It's the Office of Entrepreneurship. And so they've just hired for that role. And so funding that role. So give that person a budget to make some changes.
Yes.
Restoring funding to Missouri Technology Corporation, I think would be really important. And I know that like from the statewide politics side, like the budget is a real concern just with things that are happening. And so I don't know what next year's budget will look like, but for us, that would be for the ecosystem at large, those would be some really great things. I think Department of Commerce on the Kansas side has done a good job of reaching across the state line, which is, something they don't have to do. And so more of that thinking, more of that, just being realistic about the way that commerce works and the way that this region works and people traveling across the state line every day. And so a win for them is a win for us.
Yes. Yeah. The three things you said are really important because like if you have an office where there's no funding, you can't do anything. There's just conversations that needs to happen because most times what we need is funding. It's not the people to do the work because we got the people who have the talent. And I think so. Another big issue for me, another big pain point for me in KC is the fact that we keep losing talent, right? Which is not good for an ecosystem that's trying to grow and become an example. We can be losing talent. We can be having people leave to other ecosystems. There's obviously most of the investments that are in KC are not for early stage. Sometimes it's for, growth and you scale, right? How do we tackle that? Like, I know Jessica with Back to KC organization, they're doing a fantastic work, bringing people back and people who are already here, right? What's the missing link in that? How do we keep that more young talent here and attract people to Kansas City?
I mean, specifically like entrepreneurial talent. Gosh, I think that I maybe have some unpopular views on this,
right? Because
sometimes it's right for a business to move. Like I think of someone you interviewed, Raven Space Systems. That was a good move for them to go to Colorado Springs. There's a defense concentration there. That industry is concentrated there. And so that's a smart move. So I think we have to acknowledge that sometimes it's in the best interest of a company to leave, and we should support that. I think that we, in terms of ecosystem players, can do a better job of helping entrepreneurs find national resources that aren't necessarily going to take them out of Kansas City. So we're really working on trying to identify those resources that aren't in Kansas City that they can take advantage of remotely. I also think it's okay to leave for a time and come back. I mean, I know that that's a thing, hopping to different accelerator programs. And if that helps you grow your business, but at the end of the day, you built the most relationships here, you may come back. I think of Janae. Janae chose to build her company here after looking at different ecosystems. And I think if we're providing entrepreneurs clarity, being clear about what the resources are and how to find them, we're providing them capital, which is, somewhere where we need to move the needle for sure. We're providing them customers. Again, like ESOs focusing on connecting entrepreneurs to customers is huge.
Right.
And, corporate engagement there. And then we're providing community. Like they don't feel alone. They know that there's a place they can go and talk to fellow entrepreneurs.
Right.
I think if we just try and do those things really well, then those that are right for this region are going to stay or they're going to come back.
Right.
I don't know. It's like, it's so silly, but it's like that old adage of like, if you set it free and it comes back, it was meant to be. I just believe that because at the end of the day, they're trying to survive and have their businesses thrive. And so.
And I mean, I think the first part with Blake them moving out of Kansas City, that's a really strategic move, right? But I think on the other side of things too, I'm thinking of what has been happening in Tulsa, Oklahoma, right?
Yes.
With the foundations investing like $500 million into that place, right? Now with I think what company Arnold is what is his name? The investor that invests, I think is like they're trying to invest like $500 billion or something like that in Tulsa as well, right? That's a lot of money. That's a lot of attraction for founders who are looking to grow their startups. I haven't heard any of that for Kansas City. And I think that's where we are in KC is that we have great talent. We have people who want to move back to KC because I think we have an excellent environment, excellent people. like beautiful city, right? When you talk about living in KC is affordable. Living in KC, it's easy to get to places. It's easy to be able to find food. But it's like for entrepreneurs, I think sometimes it's that stifling of like, I need this amount of funding, but there's nowhere to get it. Now I have to leave.
Mhm.
And that's where I think it's bad for our ecosystem.
I agree. I mean, that's one of the imperatives for a reason. I mean, it's one of the areas where we have there's a $1.4 billion capital gap in Kansas City, and there's opportunities. There's opportunities for credit unions. They are much more engaged in other regions. When you talk about all that infusion of capital in Tulsa, I mean, it really does help to incentivize people to work together, incentivize people to go in the same direction. And so that would be great. We do have Kaufman.
Yes.
And not everybody has, a foundation in their backyard that's focused on improving that region and appreciates entrepreneurship and the opportunity for upward mobility that it provides. So there's that. But I don't know. I mean, we need to figure it out, and I'm here for it. I'll bring people together. I'll help facilitate. Our team is ready for that. So I don't have the answer, but I do think that we need to grow on what's working.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, essentially, I would love to. My vision of KC is a place where entrepreneurs want to come because there are resources, but also there's funding, there's structure. Because another big thing is, if you look at cities where they invest so much into it and it doesn't work, is because there's no structure and there's no resources to help them actually grow. I think we have the resources, we just need the money.
We do. I will say that the meeting before this one was a banker that's new to town that reached out to us and said, we want to support small businesses. We have the leeway to offer, riskier loans, and we just need to be connected to the ecosystem. So there are players out there that want to be a part, and new players. And so I think to me, that is a sign of our region, kind of like I said, being on that kind of upward cycle. So it's just about building off of it and working together.
So this might be my last question before we end. What would you, if you want to paint a picture for KC in the next 10 years, what news would you like to see from all the work you've done? And what would you like to be the point where it all works, it all flourishes? What would you like to see in that?
Well, I think when we talk about the history of the ecosystem, we talk about kind of the good old days, like back in 2012, when, like I said, Google Fiber was here and all of these organizations grassroots were popping up to help entrepreneurs and, Startup Village. And there was just a lot of exciting things going on there. So I would love for this to be the beginning of that next peak, right? And so in 10 years, as a region, I would love to see the story of we came together and we made measurable change in terms of capital, in terms of removing barriers. For KCSourceLink, I would love to see, us be able to tell a story in 10 years of how we really created a seamless way to connect to resources, improve technology to just make it easier. I don't know. It's like I'm in it. Like, I don't know what the results are going to be, but I sure hope that they're
positive,
that it's a good story I can tell. I mean, I will tell you that we're doing our best to just really try and create that infrastructure to help people move to action. So I'd love to be able to say, well, back in 2026, 27, that's really when we hit another peak in terms of our ecosystem.
Yeah. Again, thank you, Becca, for coming on the show. Is there anything I left on the table that you want to talk about, or something that is on the rise, or something that's coming up that people don't know about, or something that excites you?
GEW.
That this is important.
Global Entrepreneurship Week, Kansas City 2025, November 18, 19, 20, Union Station. The schedule will be live October 1st.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be great. We have our Spanish track coming back, bigger and better. And so, we just continue to grow that free resource for entrepreneurs.
Sweet. I mean, again, GW, if you're an entrepreneur, if someone wants to learn, or you're a student, whoever you are in KC or outside KC, GW is where you want to go, because you find all the entrepreneurs and founders who you see on the news articles in person networking with you. So I think that's a huge resource. So definitely pull up on November
18, 19, 20.
November 8th to 20. Don't forget, put it on your calendar. And we also have a happy hour coming up on that 19th. So pull up and
Yes.
turn it up.
Yes.
The
last thing I will say is November 17th. So before GEW gets kicked off, will be a day focused on entrepreneur support organizations, the ecosystem health, and that's when we'll really be pushing Forging the Future forward. So we want people who haven't typically engaged to be at that event. So that will be coming, that invitation will be coming out soon.
Sweet. Thank you so much, Becca, for being on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you for...
thank you for all you do. I mean, I think I'm excited to have you on the shows because I want to be able to kind of learn your story, kind of your journey, because I think you have a different angle of leading, which I think is not usual. But now I know why that is, which is important. So thank you for all you do. And for those who watch from home, it's been another Student Entrepreneur episode. I'm your host, GEWKC. And if you haven't subscribed or shared this, I don't know what you're doing. Let people know. Thank you for tuning in today. I'll see you guys on this episode. Bye-bye for now.
I'm dripping, it's working. Around the clock, I get to it. Don't take no breaks, I just do it. Just watch me work, I prove it. I was born with a gift, got the blueprint, top of the class like an A+.